You are officially out of excuses when it comes to building websites on the internet. WordPress is great. The web pages look beautiful. You can do anything in WordPress, but I find myself getting frustrated quite a bit when I install a theme that looks great and the demo looks wonderful, and then it installs like 5 or 10 different plugins, and I have to keep all those up to date, and sometimes I update them and they conflict and they go out of date. It's a mess. Everyone I know who is successful hosts their websites in different areas, not for fun, just because that's what it's grown into. And so my main website is built on WordPress. It's robertplank.com. It hosts my podcast. And then here's, for example, a website I built for a client. And we use Blueberry to do this. Now, Blueberry is a podcast hosting platform, and for $20 a month, they will host a website for you that runs on WordPress that they host it, and it's very limited in what you can do, but that's okay because it only does the podcasting part of it. And so this is a client podcast that has all these interviews by these authors, and we launched all these books for this client. His name is Pat Mesiti. He's a very excellent speaker from Australia, and each of these books has a website, right? So here is Adapt and Overcome. And I thought we linked to each website, but maybe not. So we have these different books, right? And we have it on Amazon and on Audible. But you can go to the Power of Transformation book.com for this one in particular. And it's just a very simple web page, right? It takes care of our needs. And this is hosted on Ontraport. And it does everything Ontraport or anything a website would need to do, right? It has a global header, it has colors, it has links, but the advantage to this is that we can create web pages, websites, without having to keep all these different sites and plugins up to date. It just runs in Ontraport. It doesn't do everything WordPress does, but it gets the job done. And then two of my other sites, dfynarration.com and dfypodcast.com, also run on Ontraport. So this is more like a sales letter type of web page. And then here is more of, wouldn't quite call it a blog, but it's something that has more content. All right, so how do you do it? Well, Ontraport.com, I believe their pricing starts at $97 per month. We log in, we click on Pages at the top, and here are all the list of landing pages that we have created that we can edit, and we can just click on, say, this one for DFY Podcast, and it opens an editor that is similar to many modern Elementor type editors, ClickFunnels, etc. that are out there. And if you get overwhelmed, that's okay. You might get overwhelmed the first few times, but the key to modern website design are rows. Or they call them blocks, but they're in general rows, right? So if we hover over, you can kind of see here's a block or a row, right? This top blue. Here's another row, and we can see that it shows us how far it extends, right? It's just this orange block, and then we go down here, and here is the white, and here's the orange, and so on. And here are how the blocks work. And that's just how a modern web page operates, is that you have different rows, and then each of those rows are usually one column, but they might be 2 or 3 columns, and that basically builds for you anything that you want, right? You have a long-running sales letter, and to break up the text, you have different colors or different contrasts to break it up. And so, like, one friend is a really cool guy. His name Mitchell Levy, and here's how I really like his design here, right? You go down, and here's blue, and here's white, and you just have kind of it's clear when you're on different blocks here. And now that we looked at this from that lens, that we have, this is a header row, this is a blue row, this is a white row, and then you have 3 columns in this. Then you have this row, and you have 1 column in this. This row, you have 1 column in this. And you have these other rows where it's 2 column, and we alternate photo, text, text, photo. Now it's a lot simpler, but then it ends up looking really cool in advance, but also simple enough for someone to understand what it is that we're doing. So that's the first concept, right? This concept of rows. And then within each row, what do you do? Well, you say, well, we can click on Edit Block, and we can say, here is my background color. That's really important. And then we say, here is how many columns it is. And so you can see there's these plus signs here where you can add columns or rows within this block, right? And so we can make this like 2 columns or 2 rows. And if we liked our changes, we can save or we can publish. If we don't like our changes, we can just refresh. No harm done. We haven't saved anything. And hopefully that rolled back the change that we made on that site. So you have blocks, you have columns and rows, you have colors, and then you have elements. Okay, and usually the elements that you're going to drag over, you're going to drag over a headline, or you drag over a subheadline, or you drag over text, or you drag over a button, which can be a link. So those are your basic elements. And then you also might want to drag over an image. So you drag that over, click on Change Image. You choose one of these images, or you can upload. So we can change image and upload image. That is, and we browse for it. That's how we get an image onto this web page. We also have, whoops, didn't mean to go that far back. So let's go back, and because we didn't save, we can just start all over, no harm done. I never use icon or slideshow, but I for sure use video. And then there are a lot of like Ontraport order related items here. So you can have an order form right there on the web page. And I'm more of a Thrivecart guy. So I take payments using Thrivecart. I use my email list and my CRM for Ontraport. And I don't really have the order forms built in. But what I do use a lot is this last block called custom HTML. So we can drag that in. And if you're ever in a situation where you want to add a special order form code or a JavaScript snippet or something like that, you can just click on this, edit code, and you can enter any like custom HTML in here. And so those are basically, out of all these elements that are on that list in that sidebar, that's what I use for Ontraport, like headline and text, image and video, skip most of these, and then custom HTML. All right, and then we'll jump in with a new web page in a moment. But then another thing that is very helpful is this thing called a global block, because we can build, say, this front page, and we can build this other editing and production page, and we can build this affiliate program page, and you can see how the pages are different, but the header and also the footer are the same. And imagine if we made one change up here on the top, we'd have to go and edit like 5, 15, 25 different web pages. Nightmare. Global blocks to the rescue. So what we can do here is we can hover over a block here, edit block, and then there's this globe function here, right? There's make global block. And if we were to click on that, then that would be like a reusable block we can use in other places. And we've done that up in this top one. So we've previously clicked on that globe icon. And now when we hover over this, we can't edit it directly, but we have to edit the global block. So we can click on edit global block, and it takes us off of this page and over here where we can then make these changes, and then we can click on publish, and then every place that we use this global block, then the change will appear. So we can go here, and we can go and hover over these rows here, and we can click on this plus sign here and add block, and we'll get more of this in a minute once we build a new page. But like it says build your own block, right? Do you want like 1 column, 2 column, 3 column? all these templates that we probably won't use, but we have global blocks. Global blocks right here. They all kind of look the same, but if you notice that we've named them, and then somewhere in here is the DFY podcast header. DFY podcast. It's in here somewhere, but anyway, if we say DFY podcast header, those are multiple pages. I think the lesson is I have too many global blocks. Is it in my favorites? No, maybe I should have done that. But anyways, we say DFY podcast. There's the production page. Here we go. It's always the last place you look. DFY podcast header. And then if we click on this, well, now it added 2 of them. But that's how we grab a global block from that library. You have a block that you like. You click edit block. You click on this, make it a global block, and then whenever you want to use it any other place, then you can click on add block, and then instead of choosing one of these, you choose global blocks, and then you can just drop it right in there. Okay, so that's kind of throwing you into the mix as far as Ontraport Pages. I want to move on to making an Ontraport page from scratch. You click on new landing page, and there's 2 options for us here. Is either use a pre-made template or build it ourselves. And I think that maybe my first 3 or so pages I started from a template and the rest I built myself. So what you can do, and most are free, some are paid, and we can just see what looks good to us. So if we were to all templates maybe. What looks good to us? Webinar template. And even if it says webinar template, doesn't mean we have to use it for that purpose, right? So let's say we wanted to, okay, this one looks okay, right? Spotted fly. So click on select. And then now you can just change what's here since you understand a few of these concepts that we already explained to you, right? You can hover over and you can see that each of these little slidey sections are the separate blocks. And what I find when I drop in a template is I'm like, okay, what should I delete first, right? It's like when you buy a new computer or laptop and it has all kinds of apps on it and you're like, what do I uninstall? So let's start with that. So we hover over, and let's say we didn't have a use right now for all these awards. You could hover over, edit block, and then you see how now you can either move it up or down or duplicate it. So if you get a style you like, you can just kind of copy it. Or here's the trash can. So we can click on that, and now that's how we delete a block. Versus if we click edit a block and there's these up and down, you can change the order of these. You can move them up and around, okay? And then while we're editing this block, something that got me tripped up early on was this idea that, okay, I can edit the block, but I can also edit the table within the block. Keeping in mind, a table can be just one column, one row, but it can also have different columns and rows. And so like that, let's say this has 3 columns, and maybe I wanted to add a 4th column. So click on that, and that's how we add a column. Oh, but now they're too wide, so you can use these slidey bars and make them equal or make them the way that you want them to be. And then if we wanted to add a row underneath, we could do that. And so now we have 4 columns and 1 column, and then we can add some other columns any which way we want, right? We can add 4 of them, or we can only add a couple of them. And then within this, you can click on done and then drag in these different items into the table itself. Then you might say, okay, well now these items are kind of squished together. What do I do there? You can go back and edit the block again. And this is where I won't get into like every last little nook and cranny. This might be a little trial and error for yourself. But this is where spacing comes in, okay? And there's padding and there's margin. Okay, and so like let's see, this is for editing, and this is where the guess and check comes into play, because this is the padding and the margin for the block itself, and you can see as we increase and decrease the margin is what extends like outer, and then the padding is what extends inner. So if you need to space out, this is between your different blocks. If you need to make more space between your blocks, this is how you do it, either by changing the padding or the margin. And then there's this lock symbol, and this means that the top and the bottom are the same. And then if you if you lock it, then the top and the bottom margins will kind of increase and decrease together. But if you say, well, I want more padding on the top but less on the bottom, that's you unlock that. And likewise, that's how you do the left and right. And then you can get super advanced with this, because most people go on your web page on a mobile device, right? And many times we'll create these tables with multiple columns, and it just won't look good on a phone. So what you can do with that is, say you make this beautiful table and you make it exactly the way that you want it. You can go over and edit the block. You can click on this plus sign, and now you've made a copy of it. And what you do is you edit this first block here, and you say display settings, display this to desktop only, and then you scroll down, you click on done, and you edit this block, and then you display this one to mobile only. And maybe in the mobile version you have less columns, or you have larger text, or maybe it's just a much simpler block. But this way, if you have, for example, on an order form especially, or something with a lot of detail, a lot of columns, if you create this and it looks great on a desktop computer or a tablet, but then you look on a phone and it's like, it doesn't look too great, sometimes the only option is to duplicate it, have one of these blocks only appear for a desktop, one of these appear only for mobile, and then change each one, test them on each device, and then you have a web page that looks great no matter what device you're looking at. Now, that may be getting a little more advanced, but let me finish in what we were saying here about the padding and the margin. So you can edit the block itself, right? Click Edit Block, and then we can adjust the columns. And then we can also click on like here on the top it says we're editing the block, but if you hover over these different gears, so now we're editing the column, and now we can set the padding or the spacing just for this column. And so a little advanced, and but you can drill down, but it will save some confusion for you as it's saved for me, because you might think you're editing a block, but you're editing the column and so forth. So that might be just something that you'll figure out from experience. And also throughout part of this, it's also important to optimize for SEO, search engine optimization. So you click on settings, and here's the SEO and social settings. Here's where you set your title tag, set your description tag, add your Facebook thumbnail, and that's where you get those settings made. If you want to add your own CSS or JavaScript code, then in the settings tab, there's custom code. And then you probably won't use this quite yet, but you can also use Ontraport for a membership site. And also, if you have like specific sort of subscribers on your list that are in certain tags, you can have all kinds of control about what parts of your page you show to some people and not others. And then there's this page background, where you can set a background color for the entire page, right? So what we just did is made the background red, but then this block is an image or it's white background, and so that's a whole headache waiting to happen, right? But you might set a background for your entire web page, and then go and edit a block here, and then set the background for, see how there's page block. Then you might set the block as a color that's a dark background. And so that's how you set those backgrounds, is you either on the settings set the background for the entire page, or you hover over these individual blocks and set the background that way. And that's how you achieve that effect of row, row, row. And I know sometimes they say rows and blocks interchangeably. So block might be white, block might be light gray, and that helps with the readability, as we showed on Mitchell's site a few minutes ago. And what else is there to know really about making the Ontraport page? Well, if we like the way that it is, we click on publish, and now here's the question, is where does it end up? And so if you just are making a quick and simple web page, you can click on temporary domain, you can click on save and publish, and is this already taken? So that's taken. Click on save and publish. And then we can just click on that. And there we go. Now we have created a web page using Ontraport. And then there's two other ways to, or there's, I guess, three other ways to make this web page appear on the web, right? You can either, we can unhost page, and we can publish it again, and say that I want to place it, and you see how like I have all these different domain names, and some are like .com names, and some are something.pages.ontraport.net. So we can say new custom domain, and we can say, for example, robertplank.pages.ontraport.net, and then this will be for hosting pages only. All right, so we registered robertplank.pages.ontraport.net with Ontraport, and then I think that worked. There we go. And then we can either publish this on the front page of that, or call it like page 1, or like opt-in, or like free or something, right? So we can click on save and publish. Oh, let us do that. There we go. And see how that ends up. And sometimes you get these little errors if it's a new domain name, like it won't be instant, it won't show up everywhere all at once. And we'll wait for that to be done, and then we'll show you how to host this page in WordPress and how to host this page on any domain name that you want. So waiting for this to be done. All done. Now let's put this to the test. And you might see this because it's brand new, it's not yet figured out yet. But ignoring that little error that would go away in a few hours, robertplank.pages.ontraport.net/free. Great. Next question. What if you have an existing website, an existing domain name, and an existing WordPress site? Well, that's where the Ontraport Pages plugin comes in. So this is for WordPress only. If you have an existing WordPress site and you say, I don't want a new website, I don't want to change anything, but this one web page, I want it to show this Ontraport page that I created. And when I go in Ontraport and update it, I want that page in WordPress to update as well. How do you do it? You go to Plugins, Add New. This is within WordPress. You search for Ontrapages. Oh, it helps if we spell it correctly. Ontrapages. And it's already on here, but we click on Install Now, and it adds this Ontrapages section right here on the sidebar. And here's a list of my pages on this other domain name that actually points to the Ontraport Pages. And you can do Add New Ontraport Page, or you can click on Settings. And this is a necessary step to get this WordPress site connected to your Ontraport account. So we click on Settings, and I have this covered up, but it is asking for an app ID and an app key. Go back to your Ontraport account and do the following. Hover over and go to Administration. Then go to Integrations. Then go to Ontraport API Instructions and Key Manager. Click that. I have this covered up as well, but you click on New API Key. At the top here, I'll say this is like DFY Podcast WordPress Contact Owner Me. Save that. Now I have this covered up again, but there is an API app ID and key, and you copy these out of here and paste them right in here, back into your WordPress website. And then you can just click on Add New Ontraport Page. Okay, and we want to add a title. Maybe we'll call this Free Gift Page. And then we'll find our Ontraport page in here. And one actual step I realize I'm forgetting here is when we create an Ontraport page, you see how there's this untitled landing page? It's not exactly intuitive, but this is where you would name what your page is. And I personally like to say website name, colon, and then the name of the page on that site. That way they're kind of grouped together in that way. And then we click on Publish. And now, and even though it is hosted on this kind of temporary web page, now when we, I guess we'll start over. Now we'll easily find it in this drop-down list. Okay, so now we go and find free, or no, we said website name, right? Website, what gives? Free gift page. I think we only partly saved it. Website name, free gift page. We'll try refreshing again. Maybe it took a second. Oh no. So I think it's this. I don't know why it didn't update the name. Maybe because I didn't change anything else on the page. Publish this. Republish. And it is website name, free gift page. Pop this open. There we go. So I just had to update the page contents itself. So website name, free gift page. And that's chosen. And then we add a title for this. We say free gift page. And we publish this. But there's one other step, because this website here is dfypodcast.com, and we click on edit, and this is on the WordPress side, and we tell it what we want the name of this web page to be. So we update that, and then click on DFY Podcast, and there we go. So now, even though this is a WordPress site, this particular page is now pointing to an Ontraport page. Okay, so now in the spirit of not going too long here, let's do two last little tasks, right? Let's try this again. Click on New Landing Page, and let's experiment doing this from scratch, okay? So instead of using one of these templates, we say Start from Scratch, and because we forgot last time, let's name the page, and let's name this page, let's say WP Integrator, all right? And then we add a block. And for me, usually it's only one of these three options, right? Do I want a one column? Usually this is the answer, or 2 or 3 columns. So we add a block, add a headline, and a subheadline. And then if you ever want to change the font, you can do it in 2 ways. You can either change the font on this exact block of text, or you can drop down the headline and click the pencil and then set this style for every place that you use this headline. And the same goes for the subheadline, right? You can choose one of these and say, well, here's how I want subheadline 2 to look every time I use it, as far as the color and the link and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of links, let me toss that in here, right? Now that, let's see. So let's say that's our first block. We have that first block, and then we can click on this plus sign at another block. Maybe we'll do another one column, and this will be some text and some bullet points, right? So we can put in the text here. We can add some bullet. We can say there's that one block of text, add another block of text, or maybe we can add a subheadline to break that up, and then another text here with a numbered list. So much like a Word document, right? Just easily add that. But if you want to have a link somewhere in here, you can just either highlight the whole thing or just the part you want and carefully highlight. Click on this chain here, and you can link to a URL or Ontraport page or a track link. So we can say URL, and we'll do that. Same window or new window. And then if you want to customize the way that the links appear, you can say, well, I want them to always be underlined or underlined only when I hover over. And here's the, there we go. Here's like the color I want the links to be. Do I want my links to be bold? All that is up to you. You can get as crazy as you want with that. So that's how we fill in all those different parts. Add a button, add a video, add different blocks. You get the idea. You've seen enough of this to understand. Maybe here we want to have 2 columns. And if we change our mind later, we just edit the block and we can add columns or remove columns in that way. Once we've created the columns, you click on done, and then you can drop in these items the way that you want them. And then we can edit the blocks individually and set the backgrounds of the blocks to break up the text. So now it's like white and gray. Say up here we want to add some navigation. So let's add a bunch of columns, and we'll add some text, and we'll say here's the link to home, and center that. Drag another text, and here's a link to testimonials, and center that. Add another link. Here is the link to order now. Center that. You can make this example.com/order. And so you make all this navigation. And if you want to, and maybe we'll even differentiate it, make it a dark background. But then that means we need to make our links to be white. Make them all like that. Maybe we just set it here instead. And make these underlined. So it can get a little tedious to get everything exactly the way that you want it, but that's okay. Maybe we'll make these bold. And then if you have it to, and we say, oh no, this one isn't the way we want it. Let's make this white. And if we want to, let's see, move some of these over. You get it the way that you want it. And then we can edit the block, click on Make Global Block, Convert Block, and name this new block WP Integrator Header. Publish that. Global block saved. And then now whenever if say we build out this website with lots of different pages, we can just go and add another block. But instead of choosing a blank one, we can choose global blocks, and we can grab that WP Integrator header and drop it in any new web page that we create. We can even, let's say that we publish the, let's see, we're not ready to publish it, but let's say that I'll save it for now. You get it the way that you want it to be, right? And you say, okay, I want to create a new copy of this to start from. You check on this, click on copy, and now you've made a duplicate of the page that you can edit and kind of build out your site that way. And one last step is parking your Ontraport page on a domain name, which we already did a little bit. We click on Publish, and we can say, I want it to be on my domain. Here's a list of my domains. Let's say new custom domain. And maybe I'll make my domain wpintegrator.com. Hosting pages only. Configure. This is getting a little bit into the advanced weeds. That's okay. It will take a moment, and then it will say to do something special to your domain name registrar's DNS records. And so it's kind of scary, and it might not make sense, might need a programmer to do this, but it can help to just see how it's done. So they say continue, and you need to know where your domain name is hosted. Is it like a Namecheap, GoDaddy, Namebright, those sorts of things? Mine is Namecheap, so I will get logged in here. So I'm logged in on this other tab, and they try to make it easy for you, but this, in my own experience, has never worked very well. Instead, I just say go to a manual setup, and it says to edit your domain name and enter these A records. I click on domain list, I search for the domain name, click on manage, and when I manage it, well, here's where you might need some help, right? Because right now it's pointed to these name servers. I'll switch this to Namecheap Basic DNS, click on the green check mark, and now that my registrar is handling my DNS, I can click over here to Advanced DNS. I can click on Add New Record, add an A record, and then it says add an @ sign, and then enter this number. So we'll go here and @ sign, enter that number, click the green check mark, and then go over here and add the asterisk sign and this number. So then we say add new record, A record, asterisk sign, paste in that number. And that's done. And then I've added these records. You're all set. I don't think this will work instantly, but let's find out. Okay, so now we're at wpintegrator.com, save and publish. Fingers crossed that would make for an amazing YouTube video if it worked within seconds, but I won't get my hopes up. It might take a few minutes, if not a few hours, for it to fully work. And to also set expectations, if it does work, it might show a SSL warning. But let's click and find out. Click on this. There we go. It worked right out of the gate, right? So now this web page, wpintegrator.com, worked because you went in our Ontraport pages, and when it came time to publish it, we registered our domain name, and we can always change this later, right? We can go and republish, and we can park it on a different, and we clicked on this custom domain to set it up. It said enter these DNS records into your registrar, and we did that, and now it's in our list of options, and we can either park this on the front page, the front door, or make this like wpintegrator/page1. So we can set this to any URL that we want. And so that is the magic and the power and the simplicity of Ontraport Pages. It's in your ontraport.com account, $97 a month, I believe. A Pages tab at the top. You can just click on, create a new landing page, use one of their existing templates and modify it, or build it on your own from scratch. Create these different blocks, then set your columns, then fill in the elements, and set your SEO settings and your colors and videos and all that good stuff, global blocks even. And then when it comes time to publish it, you have basically 3 ways that you can do it. One way is using their own temporary domain. Way number 2 is you go to your WordPress site, Ontraport Pages plugin, and link the pages there. And then way number 3, which is kind of advanced but also is good in the long run, is you can choose your own domain name and set your own, come here for a second, and set your own DNS records. And that is, come here for a second, and that is how you create your pages in Ontraport. I guess he's too shy, but it's as simple as a 4-year-old can do it. So go ahead, do it right now, ontraport.com. That is how you can create those web pages. That does almost everything that WordPress does, but it can, there he is, there's the guy. But it's just another way for you to create these web pages in a hurry, and it all is hosted in one place. Robert Plank, DFY Podcast. Like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.